I, William Jefferson Clinton, do solemnly swear.
I, Jimmy Carter.
I, Barack Hussein Obama.
I, George Walker Bush, do solemnly swear.
So help you God. So help me God.
So help me God.
So help me God. So help me
God. So help you God. So help me God.
So help me God.
Picture this. A man barely tall enough to look George Washington in the chin, yet bold enough to design the U.S. Constitution, duel words with Alexander Hamilton, and throw the first White House party to feature strawberry ice cream. America's fourth president was proof that stature and swagger are not the same thing. Buckle up for a whirlwind tour through James Madison's famously private life. The foodie quirks, the Montpelier mansion gossip, the fortune that quietly ballooned then vanished, and the post-presidency pastime that surprised even Thomas Jefferson. Oh, and wait until you hear the one fact scholars still debate but no textbook mentions. Ready? Let's go back in time, without the powdered wig yawns. 1. Setting the stage, the gentleman from Virginia. In 1751, James Madison arrived at Belle Grove, his maternal grandparents' plantation in Fort Conway, Virginia. He spent most of his boyhood at Montpelier, the family estate nestled among the Blue Ridge foothills. Before he could even spell republic, he survived smallpox, malaria, and what doctors politely called bilious fits, red, brutal stomach attacks. Those frail early years forged a lifelong habit. Madison never stuffed himself at dinner. He kept meals light, favoring roast chicken, fresh vegetables, and, fun fact, a daily ration of spiced chocolate. For alertness, imagine the Constitution written on a cocoa buzz. 2. Fun fact break. Dolly Madison, the charismatic First Lady, hosted so many ice cream socials that the executive mansion ran short on ice one scorching July. The solution? Ship 30-pound blocks of Hudson River ice by sloop and wagon. Montpelier's kitchen staff later copied the recipe, and strawberry became James' guilty pleasure. So yes, America's foundational debates may have been sugared by berries. 3. Meet the family, a pint-sized patriarch. At 5 feet 4 and rarely more than 100 pounds, Madison stood eye to eye with his wife Dolly's shoulder ruffles, yet his family influence loomed large. He was the oldest of 12 siblings. 7 survived to adulthood, while his father, Colonel James Madison Sr., ran a 5,000-acre tobacco empire. James Jr. soaked up Enlightenment philosophy at Princeton, then the College of New Jersey. He devoured Latin and political theory, finishing a 4-year curriculum in 2. Coffee and very little sleep were his study buddies. 4. Love and lifestyle. Enter Dolly Payne Todd. Widowed at 25 and famous for her cobalt blue eyes, Dolly Payne Todd met Madison in 1794. Aaron Burr played matchmaker, proving he sometimes united hearts instead of pistols. Their courtship was quick, married within 5 months, and Washington society buzzed. Dolly transformed Madison's reserved bachelor style. Out went dull browns, in came tailored coats and silk waistcoats that whispered statesman with flair. She also sprinkled lively banter over his famously shy dinner parties, ensuring guests stayed past the salad course. 5. Montpelier before the presidency. Design, decor, and doodles. Montpelier began as a plain, 2-story Georgian brick house. Madison sketched additions in his notebooks the way today's homeowners doodle kitchen islands. By 1797, he expanded the home into a stately 22-room mansion, complete with octagonal drawing room, library wall-to-wall with political pamphlets, and broad porticos for sunrise chess games. His architectural inspiration? A blend of Palladian symmetry and Jeffersonian whisper, Thomas Jefferson's advice to add tall windows for Virginia twilight. 6. Net worth, from tobacco to trouble. At his financial peak around 1812, Madison's assets, land, slaves, livestock, government securities, were valued near $1.1 million in today's dollars. Yet war debt and dropping tobacco prices nibbled away. By the time he died, the estate was so cash-strapped, Dolly sold the plantation and her husband's personal papers to pay creditors. Moral of the story? Even Constitution authors could use a modern financial planner. 7. Habits and quirks. The daily Madison routine. Dawn. Madison rose with the sun, drank a cup of chocolate, and read ancient histories in Greek, because apparently English before breakfast was too easy. Mid-morning, he paced the lawn while composing letters in his head, then scribbled them in microscript so tiny that modern archivists need magnifiers. Afternoon, a brisk horse ride, light lunch of ham and cider, and hours in the library cross-examining Federalist essays. Evening, early dinner, never heavy, mild claret, and occasionally a game of whist with Dolly circled, though he grumbled at high stakes. 8. Presidency highlights. Small man, big moments. Father of the Constitution. Madison's greatest feat wasn't a single law, but an entire blueprint. He arrived at the 1787 Constitutional Convention armed with the Virginia Plan, a framework that steered debate toward a powerful yet balanced federal government. Delegates rewrote, wrestled, but ultimately leaned on his vision. He later championed the first 10 amendments. Yes, the Bill of Rights, after promising skeptics that civil liberties would be etched in parchment. Commander-in-Reluctant Chief. In 1809, he took the oath of office. 3 years later, British cannons threatened American sovereignty once again. Madison asked Congress for war, the first president to sign a declaration of war. The War of 1812 was messy. Washington burned, Baltimore bombarded, yet national morale soared when Andrew Jackson won at New Orleans, ironically after the treaty. Madison's measured diplomacy secured the Treaty of Ghent, restoring borders and, more importantly, American confidence. Economic visionary, sort of. He signed the Second Bank of the United States into law, reversing his earlier skepticism of centralized banking. Call it growth or hypocrisy. Either way, the policy stabilized post-war finances. He also approved protective tariffs that nudged American manufacturing beyond spinning wheels and into industrial adolescence. 9. White House dining, menus and merriment. Madison's banquets were scaled to his appetite, modest but refined. Staples included Virginia hams glazed in molasses, oysters harvested from Chesapeake Bay, roast capon, and Dolly's show-stopping dessert table, almond macaroons, cakes soaked in brandy, and of course, ice cream molded into fruit shapes. Guests raved about a particular recipe for macaroni, baked pasta blanketed in butter and imported Parmesan, decades before Thomas Jefferson made macaroni fashionable. 10. Post-presidency. Retirement? Not exactly. After leaving office in 1817, Madison returned to Montpelier with plans for quiet farming. Peace lasted a week. Visitors, from curious tourists to global dignitaries, streamed through the gates seeking constitutional lore. Madison spent mornings editing his presidential and pre-presidential papers, aware historians would judge every comma. He co-founded the University of Virginia with Jefferson, chaired its board, and mailed peppery advice when professors complained about budgets. He also presided over the American Colonization Society, advocating a voluntary program to resettle freed African Americans in Africa. The idea remains controversial, but it illustrates Madison wrestling with slavery's moral quicksand while still owning enslaved laborers himself. History's complexity isn't always pretty. 11. Health and final years. The long goodbye. By the early 1830s, Madison's rheumatism stiffened his joints. Bouts of faintness returned. He turned to tea laced with sugar, and according to letters, cocaine-laced medicinal drops, legal at the time, for pain. On June 28, 1836, he refused the hired doctor's breakfast, whispered, "Nothing more than a change of mind, my dear," and slipped away quietly. Cause of death? Congestive heart failure at 85. Remarkably old for his era. He was buried in the family cemetery at Montpelier, wrapped in a simple coffin under the spreading oaks he planted as a young man. 12. Legacy and national impact. Why we still care. Blueprint for liberty. The Constitution and Bill of Rights remain the gold standard of written governments worldwide. Nations from Brazil to Japan borrowed Madison's checks and balances gospel. War of 1812 aftershocks. Though tactically inconclusive, the conflict forged national identity. The Star-Spangled Banner emerged, and American manufacturing boomed when British imports paused. Party politics pioneer. His alliance with Jefferson birthed the Democratic-Republican Party, ancestor to modern political divisions of opinion we all know too well. Educational architect. His work with the University of Virginia pushed secular, public higher education decades before the Morrill Act. Quiet revolutionary. Madison's insistence on peaceful transfer of power, retiring voluntarily after 2 terms, cementing a precedent every future president followed until FDR. 13. What he'll be remembered for the most. Madison will forever be the father of the Constitution, the quiet scholar who hammered theory into nation-building steel. His parchment handiwork guided civil liberties, separation of powers, and an expandable framework that has survived Civil War, Industrial Revolution, and the moon landing. Not bad for a man shorter than an NBA point guard. 14. Something almost nobody knows. Deep in Montpelier's attic, historians found a cipher-coded letter Madison drafted but never sent during the War of 1812. It outlined a contingency plan to evacuate the Declaration of Independence to the Appalachian Caves if British troops marched south. The code? A mix of Latin verbs and agricultural seed weights, only cracked in 1995. Talk about an original prepper. 15. Closing beat. A toast to America's original night owl. So next time you sip hot chocolate past midnight, remember James Madison, pacing Montpelier's halls, quill in hand, plotting a republic's future while the nation slept. He showed that brains can outweigh brawn, that measured words can outgun muskets, and that a good bowl of strawberry ice cream may sweeten even the heaviest debates.